Hey guys, I'm going to be teaching you guys some shading tips, just basic shading tips. I'm going to bring up this feed on my iPad so that I can see your comments because I've got my phone facing downward and it would be very difficult to read them. So I'm just using a piece of cardboard. I've got a flat tip brush instead of the flat tip brush, I'm going to trade it out and I'm going to use a round tipped brush or like a filbert tip brush. These are great for making circles, and I'm just going to make like some basic circles, and then I'm going to show you kind of how to shade one side of the circle dark and one side of the circle light. Hello Kimberly, how are you? I'm just having a really rainy day here in Kentucky, and I've been babysitting, and so I've been watching some TV and wrangling the kids, and they're all three down for a nap right now. A 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an 18-month-old. So let's get some painting done. So let's just start with some basic tips. Let me start with this one. This is Sea Breeze. It's just it's almost like the Key West color in apple barrel. And I'm gonna kind of just do a little circle with this. We'll do this with like 3 or 4 different colors to kind of show you guys what I would do. So let's see, I'm going to make each circle about 4 inches or so in size. And we're not going to like paint these like with 3 or 4 coats with 2 or 3 coats like we normally would if we were painting on a door hanger to get excellent coverage, just because I'm just doing this on a piece of cardboard for an example. So I'm going to go ahead and let that, while that's drying, Actually, I should probably go ahead and work with it while it's still wet, now that I'm thinking about it. Hey, Vicki, you're watching from bed. That sounds very cozy. So if you're shading with a color like this, you're going to want to pick a color that would be considered like a darker version of that color, or somewhere at least in that color family. So I've selected Bluegrass Green as my darker shade. Now, I'm also going to be using, you guys have probably seen this before, I have this in my Amazon affiliate shop. It is the Matte Fluid Medium. So I'm going to put a little bit of that in a separate egg carton. You can also mix this directly with your paint, but I'm going to choose not to. And I'm going to make this bottom side, actually, you know what? My light is actually coming from over here. So I'm going to make this side the dark side, and the other side will be the light side. So I'm going to put my Matte Fluid Medium down first. Now that matte fluid medium will stay wet longer than paint will. So while that is still damp, I'm going to get an angle brush. And let me go ahead and wet my angle brush. You don't want it completely dry. So wet it and then just blot it off on a paper towel a little bit. Hello Joyce and Cheryl. Oh no, Kimberly's home with a sick kiddo. Hey Mandy. Vicki said, I'm already impressed with how easily you made the circle. Okay, so Vicki, if you're impressed by that, it's because I did it with one of these filbert tip brushes. See how the edge is curved, like rounded? That makes an easier circle if you're just freehanding circles than a flat tip brush does. So, oh, Vicki's recovering from surgery. Oh, well, Vicki, I hope you have a speedy recovery. Nobody likes to be down and out around Christmas. Okay, so I'm going to get the long tip of my angle brush, paint right there on the long tip, and while this matte medium is still wet, we're going to bring that color in around the edge. And because this is cardboard, my matte medium is drying super fast, so I dipped my brush in just a teensy bit more of it, and I did not get any more paint. I'm just taking the same paint that was already on there and working it around. So can you see how that created a darker shadow on this corner? Let me get just a little bit more paint, and right on top of that matte medium, and you can bring that shadow on up a little bit more. Let's get some more matte medium and just keep blending up and get a little bit more paint. And you can bring that shadow on into the circle just a little bit more. But just make sure you keep your angle brush with that long pointed end toward the area that you want shaded, because that's the point that we put the paint on. And so just keep shading that direction. And if it looks like you've got like a harsh line, see almost right here, I almost have a harsh line in between the two colors. So I dipped my brush in just a little bit of matte medium, and I'm using that to kind of expand and bring the paint around so that it doesn't look like a harsh line. Isn't that cool? Hey, Alma. Okay, so now on the opposite side, we're gonna rinse our brush because we don't want that dark paint on the top side. This is gonna be our light side because the sun, or the light from my camera is, or from my, I can't think of words right now, my ring light is coming from that angle. So I'm gonna get a little bit of white, and we're gonna start with our matte medium. And I'm gonna lay down the matte medium first on this top side. I'm gonna get the tip, the very long tip of my angle brush with the white, and I'm gonna shade that in. Oops, I got outside my circle just a little bit. It's almost hard to tell the difference between the matte medium and the white paint because I've got it so thinned out. And you can go back and get a little bit more of the Sea Breeze paint too if you like. Since I'm working on cardboard, it's a little bit harder, but the concept's the same. But if you can do it on cardboard, you can do it on wood. So if you want to practice this technique, get out a piece of cardboard just like I'm doing. I'm sure you've got tons of cardboard sitting around the house right now from all of your Amazon Prime purchases. I know I do. Okay, so there we go. So on the top side, we've got a little bit of white mixed with Sea Breeze. In the middle, we have our regular. This part here is completely untouched. And then this down here is the darker shadow with the bluegrass green. Vicki said, I really needed this. Awesome. I'm so glad you're finding it helpful. So this is great. Like if you're, let's, for example, hang on, let me do a white circle. And we will talk about like if this was a snowman and we had a snowman that had, this is, let's say this is like the snowman's bottom part. Let me make it a little bigger so we've got plenty of room to work with. It's harder to make tiny brush strokes. It's easier to work in a larger space. So let's say that's our snowman. Okay, now we can take a little bit of this Sea Breeze, or you could even use a color that's like more blue. I don't have a color to show you right now, but more less teal and more blue. And you can get just a little bit of matte medium, and since our sun is up there, the shadow will be down here, and pull that shadow on around the edge of your snowman. So then that kind of makes your snowman have a little bit more color to him than just white. It's kind of neat to have just a little bit of a shadow on one side. And so you could use a blue or a teal to add that shadow, or even a gray would work great. Ashley said, thank you for this, Tamara. This is an area I struggle with. I still kind of struggle with it, Ashley, to be honest with you. I still struggle a little bit with this. So I'm just teaching you what I know and what I'm comfortable with. And so hopefully it will help you make a little bit of progress. Okay, now let's talk about like if you were doing a face, someone's face that has like skin tone color. I'm using, this is called Sugared Peach. It was the closest thing to skin tone that I had, and it's still like super pale. There's not any pink to it at all. So let's say we were doing someone's face, like a nutcracker face or something, or a scarecrow face. You could take your scarecrow face, and you could actually use a tiny bit of red or pink. I already have red sitting here, so I'm going to use a itty bitty bit of red. And by itty bit, I mean so tiny of an amount. Let me get my matte medium. I'm going to spread that on this bottom side. We're just going to shade this one side. I'm going to get the very tip of my brush. Actually, I think that's probably too much, so I'm even going to blot some of that off on a paper towel so that I have a tiny amount. And I'm going to shade it. All right, I'm going to get a little bit more. I lied. Just kind of keep playing with it. This is definitely one of those things where you have to just try it. And you can tell when you get too much. So just shade with the red. Hey, honey.
It is nasty out.
Yeah, it won't quit raining. I'm doing a tutorial for the Painters Clubhouse.
All right, I'll leave you be. Love you.
Kids are all asleep in the back bedrooms.
Our bedroom?
No, not our bedroom, the kids' bedrooms.
All right, love you.
Love you. Okay, see how we've got like a little bit of a pink shadow here now? So like if you were doing someone's face, you could use some red or pink to kind of give them like, this could actually be like the rounded part of a cheek. You could use like the red or the pink on that. Now if you wanted to make them look like a little bit more tan, maybe you could break out some honey brown. And this is gonna kind of give them a little bit of a tan look. And shade that on one side. So you wouldn't necessarily want to do these two colors together, but I'm using this just as an example. Shading tan on top of sugared peach. I'm gonna go back and get a little bit more sugared peach. Somebody said I need to get the matte medium. If you do not have matte medium right now and you want to try this, just try doing it like I am while your paints are still wet. I almost don't even need the matte medium if my paints stay wet. So try it while your paints are still damp and wet, and then if you're working on a large area, the matte medium will help. Is this helpful? Joyce said, it's good to see how much paint you put in your crate. I always feel like I waste so much. When you're doing shading, these teeny tiny little droplets, enough will do, especially on a small area like this. Shading and blending get you all the time. Okay, I thought we would try some yellow also and kind of show you how I would shade if I were doing some sort of yellow color. Yellow, you could do like brown with it or orange maybe. Let's see, let me get this scooted over here. So we'll do yellow. Actually, let's make this like the shape of a flower petal. So as if this were a sunflower petal. We're just practicing. So get your sunflower petal on there and switch to your angle brush. And we could actually use this little, oops, I just stuck my finger in the paint. We could actually use this honey brown color that I had here. Get just a tiny bit on the corner and shade that along the edge. Now my paint is already starting to dry, so I'm gonna get a little bit of the matte medium and some of the honey brown at the same time. A little bit more honey brown. Sometimes the matte medium stretches the color so much that you can't even hardly see it. So if that happens to you, just get a little bit more color and keep working. That's how you have to kind of think about that matte medium. It's stretching your paint color. It's making the pigment go farther. So I'm just still picking up more and more of the honey brown and shading it around. Now see, I've got a really harsh line right there, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and try to blend out that line. Whoops. And if you start to get to where, like right here, I don't want this shading to continue up here, so I'm going to clean my brush off a little bit. And then I'm going to get a little bit of this matte medium. I'm not picking up any paint, just the matte medium. And I'm pulling that back the opposite direction. So see how it stretched that paint out of that area? Now I'm gonna get a little bit of yellow and kind of put it back there so that it kind of hides any of that honey brown that started to get up there that I didn't want. Now I'm gonna take a little bit of white and a little bit of my matte medium, and I'm gonna highlight the top side. So shading can also be used when you're highlighting. If you don't want to use, you know, a round tip brush to just add a harsh highlight, you could add a really soft highlight like this. Okay, so right there I've got a little spot where it's kind of showing up too much. I'm gonna wipe it off on my paper towel has a little bit of water on it, so I'm just kind of dampening that off. I'm gonna get a little bit more of my matte medium, pull it back up, get it off my brush. There we go, and that looks pretty cool. All right, I think it needs a little bit more yellow right here in the middle. It looks, I'm running out of yellow paint. And then you can just keep adding layers of this, or, you know, however much you want. But if it looks a little dull after you've done all that, add a little bit more of that original color to the middle so that it brightens it right back up. Cheryl says, oh yes, this is helpful. Hi, Penny. Mandy says, very helpful. Thank you so much. You like the soft highlight. I do too, Laura. I don't do that very often, but I should because I really like the way it looks. It makes things almost look three-dimensional. because especially since I added that lighter yellow right there in the middle. That's the original yellow that I used. It's the primary yellow. Okay, so let me think how else we could do this. We could do, how about some red? We could do like a red circle. Oh wait, I already have red over here. Whoops. Started to squirt it in another egg carton hole. So if we're doing red, to go darker than red, you could use a brown. I've got my dark chocolate brown here. Get just a drop of it. Actually, I think the paint bottle's stopped up. I'm just gonna dip my brush into the lid. Okay, and I'm gonna get a little bit of matte medium because my red's already drying. So I've got brown on top of red here. And hang on, I'm gonna add the matte medium first. My brown kind of went away. So keep grabbing the brown and putting it in there until you have that red kind of dark enough for you. And I'm getting outside my circle. Whoops, I got carried away. Get a little bit more red. But wouldn't this look like, if this was Rudolph's nose and you put this on the bottom side of Rudolph's nose, it makes his nose look like it's got, you know, a little bit of a shadow underneath it. Oh, Vicky, I hope so. I really do. Penny says, I love to do shading. I actually have a hard time painting without shading. Penny, it's kind of addicting. Once you start using it on your door hangers, you kind of want to just keep doing it, I've noticed. Or at least that's the way it is for me. And then I have the problem because as the teacher, I feel like I'm getting a little too advanced for some beginners. So if you're a beginner right now and this looks super scary to you, don't feel like you have to start with this. Just kind of keep this in the back of your mind as something to try once you get more comfortable with the basics. Okay, now I'm taking my white. I laid down some matte medium. Now I'm taking a little bit of white and I'm going to do a little soft highlight with the white. See how it turned it pink on top of the red? Let me get just a little bit more. So now Rudolph's nose has a light spot on top of it. And you, yeah, if you get too much, get a little bit of red and just go back and, you know, blend it a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So we got Rudolph's nose, we got a sunflower, we've got like a snowman. That could be somebody's cheek. I don't know what this is. It's just pretty. Are there any, okay, let's take some requests. Are there any colors you would like to see me try this with that I did not try? I will wait just a moment. If anybody is like, okay, now how do you shade this color? Feel free to throw out a request. Just keep in mind that if this were a full door hanger, you might even want to have like something that you set as your point of reference for your light. So for me, my light was coming sort of from this angle. I didn't do so good with the sunflower. I kind of have the light coming from here for the sunflower petal. Okay, Joyce says greens. So let me pick, let's see. Okay, so Hauser medium green. That's a good, these are good ones to try it with too, because Hauser has the light green, the medium green, and the dark green. So let me show you the difference. So there's Hauser dark green, Hauser medium green, and this is Hauser light green. So you could do highlighting and shading with all three of these colors. So I'm using this one right now, the medium. And let's do like the shape of like a leaf, for example. Because a leaf would be green and it would have a lighter or a darker part. We'll just draw a tiny little stem on it. Let me get my angle brush and just a tiny bit of this dark green, the Hauser dark green, and just a little bit of my matte medium. And we're gonna make our shadow on the bottom side of the leaf. Sometimes it takes one stroke, and sometimes it takes several to get it exactly like you want it. If you're like me, it's probably going to take several. Now here's the trick on a leaf. Like you want to, and that's really harsh. That's not shaded very well. So I'm going to wipe my brush off a little bit, get a little bit of my matte medium and suspend that. If you're doing your stem shaded, then your leaf, you're going to want to have the shading come across like this. It kind of creates a little bit of depth between the stem and the leaf. Okay. And then our highlight is going to be on the top side. Oh, let me rinse this dark green off. Get some of my matte medium. We're going to spread the matte medium across the top. And then we're going to get some of this Hauser light green. You could also use white. I'm going to try it with the light green and see how it turns out. That looks good. And I might even add just a tiny bit of white for a soft highlight. Ooh, I added a lot of white. A lot of white. Hang on. Sometimes you don't know how much you're picking up. I wiped it off on my paper towel. It's funny how much care and time I'm putting into this on a piece of cardboard. That's how you practice, though, on something that doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to get a little bit of my dark, and I'm going to go back, because I feel like my dark almost isn't bold enough to really stand out. There we go. How would you shade if you were trying to do more lifelike eyes? That's a good question, Kim. Eyes are not my strong suit, but for like you could do that. Like let's pretend like for a second this is an eyeball. We can even add some black for a pupil. You would do you would do this part first, which is the color of your eye, which we've already done. Your white would probably be behind this. So let me go ahead and just create an eye. I'm painting this with the angle brush, which is not ideal. I just kind of got spontaneous and just decided to do this. Eyes are not my forte, but I will give this a shot for you because I love you. Okay, and if this were on a door hanger, I would paint that white so much better, but you know, just for visual reference, we're going to paint that white, and then we're going to pretend like the colors are this. The eye color is this aqua, beautiful aqua color. I wish my eyes were that color. Wouldn't that be lovely? Now let's get a little bit of black, and we're going to put it right in the middle. And you could always put your, you know, your pupil at the bottom or whatever. I put it dead center, so it's looking directly at you. And then you're going to want to put like, you're going to want to get like a round tip brush or something. Let me find one and get some white and put like a white dot looking like right on top of the black and the color so that it looks like the light is bouncing off that area. Does that help? So that is definitely not the best eyeball, but you know, here, we'll even give it eyelashes just for fun. Just for fun. We're gonna trace it and give it eyelashes. I'm running out of black paint. I didn't put enough down to really do all this. That's why it's kind of fun painting on cardboard, because you can just play with it and it really doesn't matter if this turns out terrible, because I'm just gonna toss it in the trash later. But you might want to keep it if you want to like have it for, you know, an example to look at later for what colors you used. You could even write on the piece of cardboard what you used. There you go. There's our eye. Vicky said, for winging it, you're good. Well, I've been doing this a long time. I've never taught anybody how to paint an eyeball like that before, but Do you see how we did? So you choose your eyeball color first, and so we just went ahead and used the teal since I already had that on here, and I had already showed you how to shade all of that. So then the finishing part would just be adding the black, the white, and the eyelashes and all that stuff. So, all right. Well, I think that's all I have for you guys today. I want you to go out and try it, and if you do have a practice session like this, feel free to just post your picture of your practice cardboard on Facebook. I mean, it doesn't have to be a finished, beautiful picture of a door hanger before you share it with us. We like to see the process. How many of you guys like to see pictures that people post when they're in the thick of it, in the process of doing it? Because it kind of helps us see the process and imagine, the steps. So share your process pictures with me. I want to see them. All right. You're welcome, Joyce. Bye, y'all.